Good morning, my name is Dave Eagle. I'm the interim junior senior high school principal, and I'd like to welcome you to the annual Take a Veteran to a School Day Assembly. So let's begin the assembly. A lot of people put a lot of work into this. I think you're going to be very pleased with this program. So let's please stand. And please remain standing because we're going to have the procession of the veterans honored by the Patriot Guard with a drum cadence by Dan de Blasi and Courtney Carp, the Pledge of Allegiance by Tyler Lathrop, Colt Lathrop, Harrison Robin, and their Star Spangled Banner by the Junior Senior High School Chorus. So please remain standing and let the program begin.
And the rockets red flare, the bombs welcome each of you, but most importantly, our guests of honor, our veterans, to Salem Central School's 3rd annual Take a Veteran to School Day. Before we begin our program, I'd like to give you a brief background about how it came to be. Take a Veteran to School Day was developed by the History Channel in 2007. It was designed to help students learn more about the history of our country and about Veterans Day by way of personal experiences and the oral history that our veterans could share. This day also gives our school and community the opportunity to honor veterans for their service to our country, for your heroism, for your courage and dedication, and for the sacrifices you and your loved ones have made for the greater good of our country. We thank you, our veterans. Cheyenne Mychak and Brianna Roberts will now speak about the interpretation of the Pledge of Allegiance.
Do you know why we recite the pledge?
No, not really. Why do we?
It's a way to show pride in our country, a way to show that we stand together behind our soldiers and veterans. That's why we recite it with our hand over our heart.
Really? Well, who wrote it? And when?
The Pledge of Allegiance was written in 1892 for a children's magazine called The Youth's Companion by Francis Bellamy, who hoped that his words would give children a sense of pride and hope for their country.
Okay. Well, if I recite part of the pledge, would you explain the meaning to me?
Sure, you start.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
When we pledge allegiance, we promise to be loyal to our country.
And to the republic for which it stands.
Our government is called a republic. In a republic, people vote in elections in which leaders are chosen to run the government and make laws that affect every citizen.
One nation, under God, indivisible,
The United States cannot be divided.
with liberty and justice for all.
All Americans should have the same freedoms and be treated fairly.
Oh, okay, thanks. That helps me to understand how much the Pledge of Allegiance means to our country, whereas American citizens were given the rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Yes, the Pledge of Allegiance helps to remind us to thank the soldiers and veterans who have fought to protect these rights and freedoms.
Please join me in welcoming Bob Hunter and Tony Chacoin from the Saratoga National Cemetery Honor Guard.
These gentlemen are going to show you how to correctly fold an American flag. Did you ever wonder why our flag is folded in a triangle? If you remember back, our first president was George Washington. His hat was a tri-corner hat. And that is why the American flag is folded into a tri-corner. There's 12 folds to the American flag. The first fold is to the symbol of life. The second fold, the belief is eternal life. The third fold, in honor and remembrance of the veteran being commemorated. The fourth fold, for divine guidance. The fifth fold, in tribute to our country. The sixth fold, our pledge to the flag. Seventh fold, tribute to our armed forces. The 8th pole in honor of the mothers of veterans. The 9th pole to tribute to womanhood for their faith, love, loyalty, and devotion to veterans. The 10th pole is to tribute to the fathers who gave their sons and daughters to the armed forces. The 11th pole, in the eyes of the Hebrew citizens, the seals of Kings David and Solomon. And the 12th pole, in the eyes of Christian citizens, it represents the emblem of eternity. The reason why the flag was not tucked in is because there's not a deceased veteran. When the veterans are deceased at the National Cemetery, when we fold our flags, we always tuck them in. There is no deceased veteran, so the flag is folded over and not tucked in. Thank you.
Members of our National Honor Society, Anna Cassidy, Brittany Crozier, Wyatt Greff, Julianne DeMarco, Dustin Wilson, and Kendra Wilson will now speak about the history of Veterans Day.
The history of Veterans Day, its origins and traditions. On the morning of November 11, 1918, after 4 years of war, Allied and German powers met in Raton, France, to sign an armistice and halt to the hostilities of World War I. The agreement was signed shortly after 5 a.m. and went into effect at the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month of 1918, finally bringing to an end the carnage of the Great War, a war thought by many to be the war that would end all wars. 1 year later, on the first anniversary of the armistice, President Woodrow Wilson turned the nation's thoughts towards those who had sacrificed on America's behalf. He proclaimed the first Armistice Day, both to honor the services of the troops and to celebrate the opportunity the victory provided for the United States to advance the cause of peace and justice in the world. To us in America, the reflections of Armistice Day will be filled with solemn pride in the heroism of those who died in the country's service and with gratitude for the victory, both because of the thing in which it has freed us and because of the opportunity it has given America to show her sympathy for the peace and justice in the councils of the nations.
This first Armistice Day was conceived as a day to be set aside for public parades, meetings, and a 2-minute suspension of all work activities at 11 a.m. Other countries also observed the day, and with many British Commonwealth nations using the red poppy taken from John McCrae's home in Flanders Field to honor their fallen soldiers. At Armistice Day ceremonies the following year, in 1920, the United Kingdom and France both established tombs of the unknown soldier at Westminster Abbey in the Arc de Triomphe. In 1921, the United States Congress approved the creation of the country's own tomb of the unknown soldier and set aside November 11th of that year as a federal holiday to honor all those who served in war. In an Armistice Day ceremony officiated by President Warren G. Harding, an unidentified American soldier killed in France, a soldier known but to God, as the tomb inscription states, was laid to rest in the Arlington National Cemetery.
5 years later, on June 4th, 1926, Congress, once again in the spirit of promoting international peace, passed a resolution that officially recognized the end of the Great War and encouraged the continued annual observance of Armistice Day. Whereas the 11th of November, 1918, marked the cessation of the most destructive, bloody, and far-reaching war in human annals, and the resumption by the people of the United States of peaceful relations with other nations, which we hope may never again be severed. And whereas it is fitting that the recurring anniversary of this date should be commemorated with a Thanksgiving and prayer and exercises designed to perpetuate peace through goodwill and mutual understanding between nations. And whereas the legislatures of 27 of our states have already declared November 11th to be a legal holiday, therefore be it resolved by the Senate that the President of the United States is requested to issue a proclamation calling upon the officials to display the flag of the United States on all government buildings on November 11th and inviting the people of the U.S. to observe the day in schools, in churches, or other suitable places with appropriate ceremonies of friendly relations with all other peoples.
On May 13, 1938, ironically almost on the eve of World War II, another congressional act officially established November 11 as a legal federal holiday, a day to be dedicated to the cause of world peace and to be hereafter celebrated and known as Armistice Day. With another generation of American veterans following World War II, a national movement was started to expand the holiday's purpose to honor all veterans, not just to who served in World War I. In 1945, Raymond Weeks, a veteran of World War II from Birmingham, Alabama, met with General Dwight D. Eisenhower to discuss the creation of a National Veterans Day, an idea Eisenhower supported. 2 years later, on November 11, 1947, Weeks organized the first Veterans Day celebration in Birmingham. In 1953, citizens of Emporia, Kansas, celebrated Veterans Day, leading Kansas Congressman Edward H. Reese to propose legislation to change the name of the federal holiday to Veterans Day as well.
On June 1st, 1954, Congress amended the Act of 1938, officially renaming Armistice Day as Veterans Day, and thereby expanding the recognition of the holiday to be veterans of all American wars. The first Veterans Day proclamation was issued by President Eisenhower on October 8th of that year. Where it has long been our custom to commemorate November 11th, the anniversary of the ending of World War I, by paying tribute to the heroes of that tragic struggle, by rededicating ourselves to that cause of peace. And whereas in the intervening years, the United States has been involved in 2 other great military conflicts, which have added millions of veterans, living and dead, to the honor rolls of the nation. Now therefore, I, Dwight D. Eisenhower, President of the United States of America, do hereby call upon all of our citizens to observe Thursday, November 11, 1954 as Veterans Day. On that day, let us solemnly remember the sacrifices of all those who fought so valiantly on the seas, in the air, and on foreign shores, to preserve our heritage of freedom, and let us reconsecrate ourselves to the task of promoting and enduring peace so that their efforts shall not have been in vain.
In 1971, the Uniform Monday holiday was the national observances of 4 holidays: Washington's birthday, Memorial Day, Columbus Day, and Veterans Day to Mondays, creating 3-day weekends for each of these holidays. The change as it affected Veterans Day, however, was unpopular with many Americans who believed that the November 11th date carried great historical significance that was inseparable from the anniversary of March. As a result of public opposition, including 46 states continuing to celebrate the holiday in its original date, in 1978, the national observance of Veterans Day was once again fixed to November 11th. Today, the Veterans Day National Ceremony is held each year on November 11th at Arlington National Cemetery. The traditional ceremony commences at 11 a.m. when the President or his representative lays a wreath at the tomb of the unknown soldier and a bugler sounds taps. The ceremony then continues inside the Memorial Amphitheater adjacent to the tomb, where a color guard composed of members from each of the armed forces and various veterans organizations participate in the flags. Finally, it should be noted that Veterans Day remains a unique federal holiday with a purpose distinct from that of Memorial Day. That holiday, observed on the last Monday in May, stems from the Civil War's Decoration Day, when towns would decorate with flowers graves of the fallen, and is set aside to remember and honor veterans now deceased, both those who were killed in the line of duty and those who have since passed away. Veterans Day, on the other hand, is chiefly a day to thank and recognize veterans who are still living and in many cases serving.
I will now turn the program over to Mrs. Kathy Payne and the elementary chorus. We will now hear from Dan Nolan from the Patriot Guard Riders.
Morning, everyone. Who are the Patriot Guard Riders? Well, we happen to be veterans and non-veterans who ride motorcycles. As a group, we exist to show honor, dignity, and respect for those men and women who serve and have served in the military. Military men and women can be your father, your mother, brother, sister. They can be your grandfather or grandmother, or in some cases, your great-grandfather and your great-grandmother. But a veteran is somebody who at one point in their life thought it was necessary to join the military and be of service to their country, to defend our country from those that would seek to destroy our way of life and the lives of others throughout the world. The veteran's service came at a great sacrifice, many months and years away from their family and friends. Many times these veterans may have been in combat, the enemy trying to kill them, and many veterans saw horrible things. It is the veterans' service that the Patriot Guard Riders honor. Many times we do so at funerals of our veterans when they pass away. Other times we get to show our respect at events like today. We ride motorcycles and parades honoring veterans. We go to airports to welcome our active duty military home from war. We also raise money that the Patriot Guard Riders use to help veterans who are in need. We are honored and privileged to be here today with you young girls and boys to be here, to our veterans that are here today. Thank you for inviting us. Remember, Christmas is coming. Be sure to ask for a motorcycle so you can ride.
At this time, I'd like to introduce our guests of honor, the veterans who are with us today in attendance. Please hold your applause until I've read all of their names. And veterans, if you are able, please stand when your name is called. From the U.S. Air Force, Bernard Bourgeois, Jerry Cashin, Bob Hunter, Paul Mychek, Gene Siglowski, Scott McNeil, and Jack Barber. From the U.S. Army, Frank Koshan, Joseph Manning, Michael McNeil, Larry McCauley, George Gilchrist, Terry O'Toole, Ted Mosher, Al Ernst, Charlie Perry, Joseph Childs, Ray Havens, Jim Conady, Chuck Farringer, Paul Dupuy, Nate Walrath, Gary Slater, Andy Irby, Meg Rod, Gary Miller, Fran Nichols, Michael Zangel, and Richard Apolsky. From the U.S. Army National Guard, James Weaver, Terry Landergan, Ashley Wicklow, Jared Barber, and Jim O'Toole. From the U.S. Marines, Tony Chicoine, Al Waltz, Floyd Hafner, Bob LaFrance. From the U.S. Navy, Lee Dawson, George Stockham, and Starlene George. And from the U.S. Patriot Guard Riders, Linda Nichols, Kim McFarland, Blair McFarland, Dan Nolan, Joe Spotnick, and Joe Clement. If there are any other veterans here with us today who have not called, will you please also stand now? To all of you who are here with us today that have served, are currently serving, or will serve, we honor you. In welcoming our New York State Assemblyman, Tony Jordan, who represents the 112th Assembly District.
Thank you. It's great to see so much red, white, and blue here today. I'm glad my kids go to Greenwich, so at least I don't have to worry about anyone asking for a motorcycle for Christmas. The Veterans Day has always been very special to me, and I'm really honored that Mrs. Hanson asked me to talk because my dad served as a POW in World War II. So it's always a great opportunity to remember and reflect on our veterans, and especially when it's personal. So it's a great opportunity. The beginning of the ceremony really focused on the flag. And last year, at a Veterans Day ceremony that I was at, one of the speakers talked about, one of the young students talked about perspective of the flag. So the next time you say the Pledge of Allegiance in class, or if you're at a sporting event, whether it's at your high school, a college, a professional sport, a NASCAR race, when you're watching, imagine what the flag feels and how honored the flag is to have all of you stand up, place your hand over your heart, and pay respect to the flag. Because what you're really doing is paying tribute and honor to these women and men who carried that very same flag into battle for us. They did it just for us. And when they talk about, when the flag talked about what it meant to see people pick up the flag if it fell during battle, at risk to it themselves, out of honor and respect, that's what you're doing every time you say the Pledge of Allegiance. So remember, when you're doing it not because you're asked to. You're doing it because you get to, because of what our veterans, both here and everywhere across this country, have done for us. That's one of the main reasons we celebrate Veterans Day, is to pay respect to the men and women who served for us. How many of you kids have birthdays? Yes. No high schoolers? Come on. If you don't raise your hand, your parents are going to see the video, they're not going to buy you any presents. More importantly, keep your hand up if anyone who you care about forgot your birthday one day, or 1 year. Yeah. How did you feel? Not very good. It's really sad. That's why we stop. And please, on Monday, you're not in school, so at 11 o'clock, make sure you're awake, and pause for 2 minutes to remember. Because just like we all like to have people remember our birthday, or my wife likes it if I remember our anniversary, it's important. But it's very important to stop on Monday, look at the flag, and remember what these people did for us. Because they didn't do it for themselves. They did it for each one of you and for me. And so take that time to remember. Now you may think, well, how are they going to know? Trust me, they will know. Or the gentleman with the motorcycle will come and pay you a visit. But it's a great honor to be here. I love these events because I learn a lot. I did not know what the 12 folds were for. So continue to pay respect to the flag. That's my one request to all of you. Not because you're asked to, not because you're told to, but because it's the right thing to do. And when you see a veteran, thank a veteran. Thank you very much.
Okay, now in honor of the veterans, we are going to have a thank you from the Salem School community video.
Thank you for traveling. Thank you for saving me. I love you, Grandma.
My dear father, he served the Air Force during the Vietnam War, and I think of him as a very good friend.
Thank you, Uncle Mark, for serving in the United States Air Force.
Thank you, veterans.
American soldier, American soldier, you are great, you are great, we are on the same, we are on the same, we thank you.
This is my grandfather, Alfonso Mohammed Chuliki. I am very proud of him. He was in the National Guard. Thank you for keeping us safe. Thank you for keeping us safe. Thank you for keeping us safe. Thank you, Papa. Thank you for keeping us safe.
So thank you to my sister for being in the Army. My father is here today, and I'd like to thank him for helping out in the war. But
the will to face all, the proudest of our service, steadfastly leading all, the bravest of our country, as arrows on the wall, displaying awesome courage, a treasure you cannot install, filled with total commitment to serve us for the long haul. America knows these heroes, thank God and always we all. Thank you! You're almost out of your service.
Thanks, man.
This is our grandfather, Bob Hunter, and he served in the Air Force as a medic in the Marines. Thank you, grandfather. Thank you, Grandpa. Thank you, Grandpa. We love you. Thank you, grandfather.
Thanks for serving the military.
Hey, thanks for serving the Navy. Thank you to my grandfather for being in service. He's very helpful. My dad and grandpa for coming to the Veterans Day. I really appreciate you coming and for all the hard work you did before you came back home. Thank you to all the veterans. My name is Carl George IV, and my mother served in the Navy, and I'm proud of that. And thank you, Mom. Thank you, Dad. Thanks, Dad, for being in the Army. On Veterans Day, I remember my cousin Stephen Reed. He served the United States Army in Afghanistan wars.
This is my grandpa, George Gilchrist, and I want to say thank you for serving in the Army, Grandpa.
Thank my husband for the service that he gave to our country during the Vietnam War in the early 70s. He was part of the United States Air Force. Thank you, Mr. Hunter.
Thank you, soldiers, for helping America. Veterans Day is a federal holiday that observes on November 11th. It is a day to honor those who served in the military, known as veterans. The holiday began in 1919 when United States President Woodrow Wilson decided he should have a day to reflect on all of the people courageously fought for our country. It's a time to be thankful for the veterans who died so we could be free. For serving in the Army and protecting America. This is my grandpa. His name is Donald Chavez. He was in the Marines. He was in Cuba in the Cuba Missile Crisis. He died this year. Thank you for serving for us.
This is a photo of my father, Staff Sergeant Joseph Zarelli, who enlisted in the U.S. Army Air Corps in January of 1941 and stayed throughout the duration of World War II, being discharged in December of 1945. While my father was alive, I never once told him how proud I was of his service to our country or thanked him for that service. So I'd like to do that now and to thank all our veterans for their service and for their sacrifice to the greater good.
Now I'd like to invite Mary Bramer, Board of Education President, to say a few words.
On behalf of the Board of Education, I want to thank the veterans, students, faculty, and community members for attending this assembly. I thank the Assembly Committee for all the hard work that is put into making this such a memorable occasion that has become a highly anticipated event each year. When I was asked to speak today, my first reaction was, what could I possibly have to say that hasn't already been said better by others today? I thought that since I did not serve in the military or don't have any close family members or friends that have served in our armed forces, that I didn't have the personal experience required to speak with any kind of authenticity. On further reflection, however, I realized that every American has personal experience when it comes to recognizing and thanking members of our military. Without their hard work and sacrifices, we would not have the rights and freedoms that we enjoy every single day. The actions of our veterans and current military personnel have a direct and personal impact on everyone in America. We need to remember these brave men and women who have done so much for us and our community, not just today, but every day. It's too easy to take our rights and freedoms for granted. It's too easy to get caught up in our own lives and forget that our lives have been directly impacted by members of our armed forces. One day of recognition a year is not enough to adequately thank them for the bravery they have shown and the sacrifices they have made. We need to remember them the other 364 days of the year. Remember our veterans. Thank the members of our armed forces. Realize that you don't have to personally know a member of the military, past or present, in order to be affected by them. Thank you.
For the closing, Thomas McGowan, the interim superintendent of schools, will be speaking.
Good morning. You truly don't know how great the community is until you come to a ceremony like this and see how everybody has come together to realize that you live in a very special place. And you should be proud of yourselves for taking part in today's program, but also for honoring those veterans. I want to thank you all for coming today to join together in this celebration. I want to thank all staff, students, and community who are part of organizing today's community. To our staff and students, it is fitting that we take the time to remember and honor those who have made sacrifices so we can live in a free society. Their contributions have paved the way for future generations. To the families of our veterans, we thank you for your support and constant reminder that these men and women have left home to serve and protect us. We must remember how fortunate we are in this country and never take for granted the benefits that we have been given. These benefits came with a price paid by our servicemen and women. And to our veterans, thank you. Your devotion and unselfishness will always be remembered. It is fitting that we set aside November 11th to remember the sacrifices made, but we also need to remember that every day we enjoy our freedoms, it was you who have helped preserve them. We also remember those who gave the ultimate sacrifice with their lives for us. Their unyielding service and dedication will never be forgotten. As we prepare to celebrate Veterans Day on Monday, never forget who sacrificed for us. Thank you very much.